Although it had seemed for a while that all the Harry Potter adaptations would share the same cast and director, sometimes shit happens. After 2 back-to-back films, Chris Columbus decided to exit the series, citing burnout, and Alfonso Cuarón was brought on because someone at Warner Brothers is an insane genius. Also, Richard Harris, who had played Dumbledore in the first 2 films, died of cancer, necessitating a replacement, which came in the form of Michael Gambon. Some fans, of course, refused to accept him as Dumbledore, though it was tough to judge his performance in this film due to the fact that his role is small. I've always felt he embodied the character much better than Richard Harris, who, despite being a great actor, seemed to be phoning it in. Though, of course, due to his battle with cancer and his declining health, it's a wonder he was working at all. Anyway, in this film, Harry and friends are starting to mature, and they're now teenagers. And things are a whole lot darker and more realistic due to the new director who took a grounded approach to the film rather than the stylized, fantastical approach that Columbus took. Harry gets into a jam when he accidentally inflates his Aunt Marge into a giant floating cunt ball and runs off, but he's surprised to find that he gets in no trouble for it and everybody seems really, really concerned with his safety all of a sudden. As we go through the movie, we find that the villain du jour is Sirius Black, who was a friend of Harry's parents and betrayed them to Voldemort, and is said to be so dangerous he once killed 13 people with a single curse. Well, actually, I think they had left that part out of the movie, but it's pretty sweet, so I thought I'd mention it. Despite the increased security at Hogwarts, including stationing the foul creatures known as Dementors around the perimeter, Sirius Black manages to slip into the grounds and castle, scaring the bejesus out of everyone. Snape believes that the new teacher, Lupin, who was a friend of Sirius back in the day, is letting him in, and when subbing for Lupin's class, he gives the class an assignment about recognizing werewolves, hoping to expose the fact that Lupin is one and get him fired. Hermione figures this out, but also elects to trust Lupin, who is also giving Harry anti-Dementor lessons because the Dementors affect Harry much more than anyone else. There's also a subplot with Hagrid and a hippogriff who injures Harry's rival Draco Malfoy and is sentenced to death by the Ministry. In the end, and yes, if you haven't read the books, this is going to seem really, really insane, Sirius was innocent all along. It was the previously thought dead Peter Pettigrew who sold out the Potters, and then faked his death and turned into a rat where he's been Ron's pet Scabbers almost the whole time. Lupin and Sirius team up to try to kill Pettigrew, but Harry elects to have him arrested because it'll clear Sirius's name. But Lupin turns into a werewolf at the worst possible time and everything goes haywire. Pettigrew gets away, and Sirius is condemned to a fate worse than death. Then Dumbledore suggests that Harry and Hermione travel back in time to save the hippogriff. I guess they can do that, and also make several events that had already happened possible, ending in using the hippogriff to bust Sirius out and make it seem like he escaped on his own. This one, as I mentioned, has a much different feel from the first 2. Rather than the sterile, literal approach to adapting the book, it has more of a personality of its own, and the overall atmosphere is darker and more realistic, not in an oppressive way, but in a natural sense. Hogwarts looks less like a fantasy realm and more like a castle in England, and the magic effects are more subtle and less overblown and flashy, which I think is a good choice, because when it does show the big flashy magic at the end for the Patronus charm, it's not just another spell, it really looks fantastic. The acting is also top-notch. As usual, the adult actors are all veterans. At this time, the child actors got to stretch their legs a bit, so to speak, and they show a greater range of emotions, which I think worked out really well. And I think the film also had the best use of music in any of the films, and is overall the best directed. Although it's significantly darker in tone, it still has a lot of whimsy to it, and the lighthearted moments stop it from being overly creepy. Overall, in terms of direction and tone, this is my second favorite in the series. And as I thought this is also where the book started to get really good, it's pretty much a 1-2 punch of quality that makes this one unforgettable. I'm going to give it a 9 out of a possible 10.